I was wondering when Ike Turner was gonna show up. Child, Zadia back to arguing and lying, and Sharice back to fighting. Y'all, let's look at episode 2 of Ready to Love, Make a Move. Hey y'all, support this channel by smashing that like button. Your likes not only make my day, but they also tell YouTube that you also enjoy this content. Also, don't forget to hit the notification button. That way you can be alerted as soon as I drop a new episode. Thanks. Hey, question Cruiser. We are back for episode 2 of Ready to Love, Let's Make a Move, y'all. So I just want to pause real quick and just say we need to get rid of this theme song. I don't understand. It sounds like a demo tape somebody was put together trying to get signed to a record label for R&B. I can't deal with the ooh yeah, what's it gonna? I can't. PJ Morton is a standard own. I need you to pull it together, get a professional to go in there and sing that song and give us a theme song we can love. Anyway, y'all, so we back on Bourbon Street, and Tamika is introducing the ladies to the dates that she told them she was going to hook them up with last week. And I don't know, for me, it was a little bit of a mixed bag when it came to the fellas, but it was interesting. She gave him a church musician, a divorced dad, or two. He looked like a public accountant. The visuals for these men was unique to say the least. Okay, so the men strolled in, and it was clear that they were all coming from someplace different or going to a different place, honey. Again, the dress code here is always questionable. We're Ready to Love. I don't know what be on the call sheet about what everybody should wear. We had somebody dressed as somebody's twin brother. We had somebody dressed like a florist. We had somebody dressed like a public accountant. I didn't know what was going on. But the men weren't bad looking. I have to say, Zadia's pick, Cameron, honey, I can't with the hair. It looked matted. It didn't look wild and free. It didn't look, gorgeous and like nappy and pretty. How you can see a guy who has like a wild hairstyle or his hair's just growing naturally and it looks good. It looked like he had escaped from somewhere. I was so upset with this look. But either way, honey, Tamika starts to introduce the ladies to each of the guys, and they're looking around and they seem very pleased with what they have. They're very, very excited, especially Ashley. And she ends up telling each person who they're gonna go with. So Zadia is with Cameron. That's the matted hair, y'all. And he's also dressed like a toddler. And I didn't understand that little outfit. Like I feel like my nephew definitely has that shirt. And Sharice got the CPA that's dressed like a funeral home director. And Sharice kind of went light in the voice. She was very, nice and very airy with him. And even when Tamika was introducing her to him, Sharice was already like, look, that one is mine. At least in her head, that's what she said. Venetia got Roman, who's in the back, and he's a tall, nice looking guy. He was cute. But again, everybody was dressed for something different. And I'm starting to wonder about Tamika's qualifications on the matchmaker side of things. I've never seen her anywhere before. So drop down in the comments if you know her from another show. But it's giving that the matchmaker is really Black people meet. They just cast the people once they like the photo. Because it's not giving professional matchmaker. It's very much giving Tinder and swipe. So let me find out the algorithm found these people for these women and not OWN. Let's get to these dates that Tamika didn't set up. So first we got Zadia and Cameron, and they look like they just went to go get some drinks. I feel like that's what everybody kind of did except for Ashley and Cameron. Everybody kind of went and had like a food situation. So Cameron is 36 and he states that he is a doctor. And so he spent a lot of his time being too busy for love. And Cameron's profile says that he's a pharmacist and a photographer. And I know, a lot of people were switched up at this moment because it could throw you off. When he said doctor and you saw pharmacist and, that was, trying to figure out, is he really like tripping? Does he really work at CVS? What's going on? But pharmacists are actually doctors. You do get, if you get a PharmD, you are actually getting a doctorate degree. They just don't call themselves doctors if you're an official pharmacist. Now, if you're just a pharmacy tech that be messing up the medication at CVS, that is not who you are. But, he said he's been busy for quite some time, and that's why he hasn't had to meet a lady. I don't know. It was different. Zadia starts talking to him about where he's from because she said that in his voice, he doesn't sound like he's from Louisiana. She can tell he doesn't have an accent. He says he's from Atlanta, and Zadia goes, oh, I'm from Atlanta too. Here's the thing with me and Zadia. I'm feeling like her school history is sketchy. We need to know more about Zadia's backstory. I don't remember her saying, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't remember her saying in DC that she was like an army brat or somebody who moved around all the time. So how come everywhere somebody else is from or been to school that Zadia been there too? So Cameron said he's actually from Omaha, but he went to high school in Atlanta. And ZADIA says, well, I went to high school in Atlanta. And she said that she also went to North Carolina A&T for like a year on a swimming scholarship. And then she transferred to University of Houston, honey. When I say nobody goes to University of Houston. He then goes, oh, I went to University of Houston too. Him, her, Lil Wayne. And he said that he actually got transferred to University of Houston when Katrina happened. And he was there for a year. And I do know that that is something that definitely happened at HBCUs during that time. Like if you were affected by Katrina, a lot of Black colleges were making sure that there was placement around the surrounding area. So if you went to, like, obviously like Xavier, you went to Dillard or something like that in Louisiana, like a lot of people had to leave or just left. And so if they couldn't stay there, a lot of the colleges on the Delta, especially like the Southern colleges right around that area, were working really hard to get people placed into other schools. So that was kind of unique. He said he went to Europe for a year after Katrina. He's going back and forth in their history. And ZADIA says it's great that we have a lot in common, but, it's, what else, do we have to connect with besides school? And she says that she's more attracted to Cameron than she is to Jabari, who we know her and Venetia both went out with at the same time, and that she's been abstaining from sex since 2022. And she really misses it. She says that she definitely thinks he's a cutie, and she asked him more about his job. He said that he has a photography business as well, but he kind of like, licenses out or whatever photographers that kind of work for him. He doesn't do pictures himself anymore, so he doesn't work directly for the business. She's liking the fact that he's got jobs on top of jobs. And she said she appreciates a man that collects a check. I have to say, I understand where she's coming from on the, appreciating somebody has a job, but I also want to show how low the bar is right now. Why is that the bare minimum, the appreciation that has to be there for somebody who is working? That used to be and should still always be the standard. Like you taking on side gigs or being an entrepreneur or that being your full-time gig, it's something that should be unique about you, but it definitely shouldn't be that we're just happy that they're working. So it just shows you how low the bar is when it comes to that. That should not be a wow factor. But they're really cute. They both are entrepreneurs. He asked ZADIA, what she does. And of course, she mentions her fitness business. And she also says that she does makeup on the side. And I was just like, I have questions on that one because I don't see it. Don't get me wrong, ZADIA is a beautiful girl, but honestly, she feels like one of the people that's definitely doing beginner makeup for herself. So I don't see the professionalism situation. I'm not getting a MAC face. I'm not getting a beat that is for the gods. I do my own makeup at home after a couple YouTube videos. But her and Cameron are connecting, him not with the barber so much, but they're saying that they like the fact that they both could relate to each other because of what they do. And ZADIA likes the connection. And so do I. So next we got Marcus and Ashley. And I just have to say that here we are on another date, honey, where somebody is not telling somebody what they're doing beforehand. Because here this man is asking Ashley to ride a bike. And Ashley is saying, I ain't ridden a bike since I was a kid. I have to say Ashley's one of my favorite parts of the show. She just gives good, positive energy and comic relief, which is what we need. Charisse gives great comic relief too, in my opinion. But, she's going to have that little villainess thing going on. So you need a little bit of a balance. But, Ashley was still a, good sport for the most part. And she's meeting up with Marcus, the person that Tamika hooked her up with. Marcus is 41, I believe, and he's an assistant principal. Very interesting because the last time a principal was on here, ZADIA sent him home. So it looks like they're gonna have like a good little fitness day. Ashley's looking cute in her little warm-up outfit, and he's getting dressed. They're having a little chit-chat about the bikes and, just saying that they're, willing to go on the adventure. There's also a lot of single principals based on this show alone in Louisiana. What's going on? Nobody dating nobody in the school system. I don't know what's happening. Talk to me, NOLA folks. What's going on with your educators? So Marcus is saying, here, I know you haven't ridden a bike in a while, but I got you. So if you fall, anything like that, I got you. But let's just try it or whatever. They go for the ride. It's completely hilarious. Ashley really could be on TV in some type of sitcom because she's literally the funniest thing about their date. She's trying to cycle around people and trying to get it going. And it's a good time all around. He even told her when she fell with the bike, he was like, go ahead and just use the little bell. But they're having a good old time. They only ride about 3 blocks anyway. And then they stop for gelato. Don't we love gelato? It is amazing. I definitely like the two of them. I feel like they match each other's energy really well. He's energetic. She's energetic, despite the little tragic bike accident that they almost had. they seem to be having really good chemistry. And so Ashley asked him, what did he find most attractive about her when they were meeting for the first time in the house? Because they men met them very briefly and they had to go upstairs and change. And he says, I loved how you looked and you were dressed and you looked really, really beautiful, especially in that yellow and that old gold. And Ashley goes, that wasn't me. And when I tell you, he was like, what? Now I have to give him a little bit of a break because I feel like they met them for like maybe 15 minutes before the women had to go upstairs and change. So I don't know. She was sitting directly next to ZADIA. She said that was ZADIA. It was not me that was in the yellow. Ashley was in like a tannish dress and her hair is blonde. So I don't know. Maybe he should have said something more about her hair. But I think he was trying to be honest because you're looking at everybody so quickly and then they're running upstairs to get dressed and the lady's the same. And the men were dressed very distinctly. But if you look at the women on the couch in this episode, 3 of them had on the same type of midi kind of strapless dress. I think the only one dressed differently was ZADIA. So I feel like in this instance, it was easy for him to make a mistake. I don't think he was just staring at her. I think that's what he just remembered about the situation. But Ashley nonetheless says she doesn't feel the fact that he didn't, remember what she had on, and that, it wasn't her. And I just feel like that really wasn't something to keep harping on forever. There's an array of colors in that man's mind, I would assume, but he probably should have said something about her blonde hair. So then he asked her, what has she been into? And this is something I've been wanting to know too, because I've been trying to give Ashley a pass, but when it gets to career topics, I don't know what the hell she does either. First she said she owned a restaurant, then she said she's a jack of all trades, then she turned around and said that she's been a speech therapist and worked in schools before. And I do feel like this is something that if this was a man saying this, we would be asking more questions than this. And we'd be like, well, wait a minute, is that a problem? I mean, just last season on Ready to Love, the original, this was an issue with people around Phil. All these multiple jobs, these multiple careers. Like, where do you get your primary funds from? What do we pay the mortgage with if we end up staying with each other longer? I feel like I still don't really know what Ashley does, and we need to get to the bottom of it. How do you make your money specifically? Do you have income on a regular basis? Do y'all still own the restaurant? We just need to pin that down. But nonetheless, the date went well. Ashley asked him some more questions just about his personal life and what does he see in relationships and what is he looking for. It was a very, very cute date and they connected. Okay, so next up we got Vernisha and Roman, and I really liked the two of them. I also love that Vernisha stepped it up when it came to the outfit, honey. Now we match and not them lime green pants no more. It's very much, she had a little jean with the white shirt. It was very much an ode to Megan Thee Stallion, the teacher. You got the curves, you got the glasses. I loved Venisha's look on this date. It was definitely giving Houston Hottie. So in this case, Venisha's date is Roman. I believe he's 36 and he is a former professional basketball player. He played in the NBA G League, which is like the minor league. And we know a lot about that because we've been talking about Basketball Wives Orlando, and half the men on there was in the G League. Honey, never really made it to the NBA. And he also played overseas in quite a few international European teams. And, he played overseas for a couple of years for different teams. And so he said that, he's been to a lot of countries. He's traveled a lot and, he's lived abroad. So he's, well cultured, well traveled, and he knows, a little bit of Europe like the back of his hand. Venetia says that she loves that about him and she would also love to travel and she wants to travel to more places and that's on her bucket list. She mentioned Dubai and Bora Bora and a couple places like that. I was actually shocked that Venetia hasn't traveled a lot because I know her kids are a little bit older and, she's kind of a social butterfly. Have you ever been on her like Instagram and stuff like that? So I thought she would be a person that had gone out of the country a lot more. Even when you have kids, if you're a person that can get away to kind of do social stuff, and she runs her own business, that you maybe make the time to do more vacations, even if you're taking your kids with you. So I'm a little shocked that she hadn't traveled, but I'm glad it was opening her up, back to thinking about doing that. And I definitely think she needs to take advantage of that, whether or not after this show she meets someone, because travel is so amazing. As you can tell, I love to travel. And I really think you learn so much about yourself when you do it, whether you do it solo, whether you do it with your family, or with a significant other. So I hope she doesn't wait to meet somebody until she starts going places or until her kids leave. Because I think her youngest child is like 15. Take them kids with you and let them, explore that international situation. And one of the pluses about being your own boss, rather, is that you can, let go of the reins, hopefully, and make your own schedule. So I hope she does take advantage of the idea of solo tripping or just traveling in general. And so Venetia and him started talking, and he asked her about herself. She mentioned some things about herself. And then she sort of asked him about his last relationship. And he says that, because of his travel and because of him being a basketball player, he's been so many different places. So he hasn't been in a lot of long-term relationships. And so she asked him, when is the last relationship that you've been in? And he said it was in 2008. And she said, okay, so how long did that last? And he's like, 2 years. So 2010. So Venetia is like, oh, red flag, because, sir, you don't even know how to be in a relationship if you haven't been in anything since 2008. Since the crash. You know what I'm saying? Like, since the home situation, that's the last time that the real estate market was bad, is the last time that you actually been in a serious situation. And so her, red flags instantly go up because her feeling is that he doesn't know how to be committed. Now I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna leave it on the playground for y'all to talk about it, and you'll mention in the comments. Roman seemed very nice. We know that he's cool with his mother, and that's great. Roman gave, and I'm going to put it delicately, he gave Basketball Jones energy. Now, if you don't know Basketball Jones, Google it, okay? And then y'all can come back in the comments and let me know if y'all agreed. He gave Basketball Jones energy, but that was maybe for me 60%, 40%. He's just a regular dude that probably was just out hoeing. So probably after 2010, the relationship didn't work. He played overseas. Like, look, I could just, mess with here, there, and everywhere while I'm over there because I don't have to be in a serious relationship. I'm moving from, country to country anyway. Why make it a serious thing? And now he's trying to settle down, and that's difficult for him. So that was a red flag for her because she worried that he really wouldn't be interested in commitment. And she's trying to be a wife. She said that she wants to date intentionally because he asked her, aside from myself, we know my history now. Why are you single? Like, you're beautiful. You have it together. Like, why are you there? She's like, shoot, I don't know. She said, nobody's really calling. He's like, I can't believe that. She's like, trust me, I'm not getting the calls you think. And she's like, I date intentionally and I have no problem cutting off men who I know are not dating intentionally. I'm trying to be a wife. I'm not trying to just be somebody's like random girlfriend or one off. And so you're going to meet men like that. Instead of me playing games and wasting my time, I immediately cut them off. Now, I understand where she was coming from, and I believe that about 70% of that is true. But I also feel like Venetia has a type, and that is something that gets in the way of her getting to somebody super serious. I feel like she gets attracted to the same types of men because there are vibes in the guy that she's into, Jabari, to me, that also rang true for things that Joel had. And Jabari seems a lot more serious than Joel, but there's just something about them that seems similar. I feel like Venetia is attracted to like former playboys that may not be finished playing. And that is a concern she has with Jabari. But nonetheless, she continues on her date with Roman, but I just don't think that there's going to be anything because of his dating history. So finally, we get Sharice sitting down with Mayor Eric Adams. If y'all don't know who Mayor Eric Adams is, he is the current mayor of New York City, honey, and a complete source of good humor. Just Google him. But he's completely unserious, and so is this man on this date. So we sit down with Sharice's date, Maurice. He was the older man of the bunch. He was the only one dressed in the suit when they showed up. And that was something that was really impressive to Sharice. He says that he's an attorney, and he gives me older man, he gives me settled. Sharice, talks about how, she's not interested in dating anybody super young necessarily. And that's something that was attractive to him about it. Was something about his vibe that she just genuinely liked about him being grown. It's hard to kind of tell sometimes with Sharice because her face is so expressionless. It's just the Botox, y'all. It's just not like from her nose above, it's just not moving. And so I can't ever tell sometimes until her mouth moves or makes some sort of twitch that she's happy, sad, upset. I mean, in the middle of this date, this man presented her with flowers and she was excited because we could see it on the side of her face, but the rest of her face didn't move at all. So it's just something about that Botox. Anyway, like I said, mid-date, flowers were delivered to her. They started from really good conversation. She starts asking him questions about himself. And, something about Maurice just gives me ex-husband vibes. So I knew he was going to be an ex-husband. He just gives me the type of man that like was in a relationship, but he wasn't good in the relationship, like maybe towards the end. But he's that ex-husband that like shows up to all the family events that everybody knows and they see him coming and go, oh, here go Maurice. And, just something about him gave me wait in the exhale, like Michael Bernadette vibes. Like he was he just wasn't ain't nothing. So, but Sharice says as they're talking, he mentions that, he has children, he was married for a very long time, and his kids are all grown. His youngest child is 21. And Sharice still has a problem with that. This made no sense to me, y'all. This woman is 44 years old. Why do you think that you're going to meet a man that has no children at your age? You're 6 years from 50, ma'am. You're going to have met mostly men at this range, especially if you're looking to date somebody grown who has kids, who probably is on his way to having grandkids if already doesn't have at least one. Sharice's expectations for me sometimes are so outrageous when it comes to sensibility. Like, girl, where are you coming from with this? The kids are grown. He's basically telling you, like, look, my kids are out the house. So whether or not me and you have kids, we absolutely can do what we want because I don't have the restrictions of somebody who has very young children to deal with. And for some reason, for Sharice, that's still a problem. I just didn't understand the situation there. It reminded me of like the Evelyn Lozado situation that's going on with her right now, and her fake pretending to be in love with that man for that TV show just to have them in. Like we thought that was going to last. And she said like one of the reasons it was an issue is because he got a child going into high school or maybe going into high school. She didn't even know if the child was going into high school, y'all. When I tell you Evelyn, Erica Mina, possibly Sharice, all cut from the same cloth. Anyway, they continue to talk, and then a waitress comes by to serve them some food. The food sits down and looks pretty decent. I think it's like rice on top of, I think it's like some type of like meat dish on top of rice or either on a pita. They both start to eat. And when I tell you that is when the conversation ended, it was dead. It was just dead silence. He is eating the food. Sharice eventually just tries to throw something and says, hey, do you like it? And he says, yeah. And it goes right back to eat his food. So they just there in silence, and that man is digging in. And she's like, have you been here before? And he's like, yeah. So he might have even had this food before. You can tell he's not even interested in Sharice. At this point, he is looking at this as an ad for this show. And I don't know if he's a divorce attorney or what he does, but honey, he is not interested in this lady because he didn't ask her nothing. Sharice had to keep asking questions to even keep life in the date. And he eventually started, answering some stuff, but there was nothing more important to him than that food on that pita or that better rice. And I'm sorry, when a man is attracted to you, he wants to know more about you. And I just didn't see it. Now, side note, before we move on, y'all, I knew I recognized Tamika's jacket from somewhere. That's that damn Giovanni blazer. When I tell you, I hate who is styling her for this show. Between that lime green monstrosity to this dress, I just knew I had seen that. You cannot trick me. I just knew I had seen this dress before. Whoever styled the show, specifically her, is horrible. This dress is like $640, $700 around that range. Giovanni doesn't even make these types of things well. It's these sparse feathers. It just is thrown together. It just really looks like an arts and craft project. I don't understand. They don't even do this well. They do gowns well. They do gowns. They do proms. They do that. That's what they do well. This, not so much. It's giving JCPenney, I need somebody to get fired. Okay, so back to the regularly scheduled program. So Tamika is in the house, and she's not so much asking the women about how their dates went. It's like a little light, but she really is touching on the fact that are there any house rules they want to set down? It felt really random to just go from Venetia date to all the way to this house rule situation, but Ready Love is locking in. They're like, look, we need a fight, we need an argument, we need something. So she starts asking the ladies, how do they feel? Because it's a unique experience. Are they having a good time? Because it's not only about them coming to New Orleans to meet men. That's like, 95% of the reason, but also 5% of it is, maybe a bond, a sisterhood kind of thing. And, Ashley jumps right in and says, we're having a great time. We're really, really enjoying ourselves here. We're having a good time. And, it goes to, Tamika's saying, hey, do you guys want to set any sort of house rules? And Sharice says, we are having a great time. We're living, we're laughing, we're loving. But I think that we need to talk about people being considerate because we are sharing a space. And that was the opening, y'all, because after she says that, she basically says, so Tamika's scratching her head like, okay, so what do you mean, girl? Did something happen? And it's like, girl, something happened. But she says yes. So basically they were drinking the other night in the kitchen. Everybody was having a good old time. What people get when they drink, and they started, commemorating about the experience. And then ZADIA comes up in a question and says, hey, do y'all mind if we invite some of the guys over? And, Ashley right away says, she doesn't have an issue with it. And Venetia says that she's fine. But Sharice says that, she doesn't want any men to come over to the house. It's only been 2 days since they've been there. And she's just not really comfortable with inviting over strangers because they are strangers to them. They just met these men the other day. And so, Zadia's face turns up like, I know this girl did not bring this up. I don't understand why she would have. And so Ashley explains, what was going on. And, she thought that after, Cherise said she wasn't comfortable, Zadia said cool, and it was a done deal. But then Cherise lets us know that it really wasn't a done deal because the next morning around like 6 a.m. or so, she gets a phone call from Zadia asking her to let her back in the house because she's locked out. And, Zadia was off, sneaking and freaking, honey, I guess. So Zadia's a bit pissed. Tamika's like, oh, so was there something that happened? Zadia, were you out the home? So instead of just saying yes, right? Instead of being grown and saying, yes, I was outside the house, I went to go see whatever, she proceeds to lie and say no. So Tamika goes, mm. So Ashley's face is like, girl, what? Like, did you just lie about something, whatever? So Zadia's like, well, where are you going with this? So she's talking to Cherise at this point, saying, like, why are you trying to start mess, girl? Like, what are you doing by bringing up this example? And, Tamika's like, so Zadia, getting back to it, were you out late? So Zadia goes, no, I was on an early morning walk. And again, Ashley's like, further Scooby-Doo, because she's trying to figure out, like, girl, why are you lying? You definitely weren't here. So Tamika says, well, hands raised, who stayed in their bed? And Ashley says, I was in my bed. Renisha says, I was in my bed. And Cherise says, I was in my bed. Zadia halts and then goes, I was in my bed as well. It was like, girl, the way the women was looking at her like, why are you lying about this thing, ma'am? You were not in your bed. And so basically, Tamika says, well, Zadia, are you telling the truth? Were you in your bed? Zadia goes, yes, I was in my bed. She said she went for an early morning walk and she got locked out. And Cherise was like, well, she interrupted my sleep because I had to get up to go open the door for her. She didn't even say thank you or anything like that. So again, we know from the faces of the women that Zadia is lying about this, and it doesn't really make any sense. And Zadia says that basically, based on the situation that just happened, she feels like she can't trust Cherise. And she tells Tamika, like, no, I just got locked out and then I was able to get back in. And so even Tamika's getting down to the matlock of it all. And she's like, well, girl, what time did you go out for the run and for the walk? And she goes, 6 a.m. Like, it's like she's answering her, but you could tell she's making up her answers. And Tamika's not fooled. She said, oh, okay. So, how was it? Like, she's just asking questions that would lead to it. But Zadia is comfortable lying. And like not even a sweat bead or nothing coming down her face, honey. Just lying right in front of this lady's face. And that was a little disturbing to me because somebody that can lie that comfortably is a problem. Like the fact that she felt so comfortable lying to the host. You're saying that you're grown, you're saying that they're grown, but you don't want to be grown enough to accept the fact that, yes, you hung out with one of the guys last night, especially if nothing happened and, you had to be let back in the morning. Instead of just fessing up to that, you're going on this whole, yes, girl, I went out for a walk, but in the future, if I decide that I want to go hang out with somebody, I'll let you know. And it was just like, that really, 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 annoyed me. And it annoyed Cherise as well. She's like, girl, just come clean. And it reminded me of like how, it shouldn't be a big deal, but the lying is an issue, and how that was Zadia when she was messing with Dante on there. So Tamika lets the ladies know that, tonight is the night that they have to make a decision between the two men, the guy that she set them up on that we just met, and the men that they met on the very first episode that they picked off of Visuals First, and decide who is the weakest connection, and that person should be going home. So they've gathered all the men back around that tight ass pool. And when I say this is why I absolutely love Cherise. Why she was checking Dougie Fresh's to see if he had on a vest, child. Cherise not letting go of that vest situation. And that's what I think ultimately sent him home towards the end. So, the drinks are flowing and the poetry is going. Ashley's asking her old connection to, say a poem to her. He starts to repeat some sort of like deaf poetry jam, spoken word. She gets upset because she felt like it wasn't catered towards her. Girl, was he supposed to do poetry on the spot and come up with something just for you? It's giving unreasonable expectations. And they're all having conversations with their new and their older connection. And so Ashley decides that she's going to pull her new connection and her old connection into the house, and she's going to talk to them in individual rooms. She said one man by the steps, and she said the other man
in the living room so that they can have a discussion about who is staying and who is. Like I said, Ashley is the first one to go, honey, and she got some liquid courage in her. She done had a couple of drinks, a couple of shots. She's ready to tell her date, or rather the date that she's not feeling, it's time to go home. So she basically talks to the guy that Tamika linked her up with, the assistant school principal, the bike rider, that she really enjoyed their day. She likes the energy that he has towards her, and she loved that they had a good time, and he was really protective about her being uncomfortable initially with the bike. She said that she likes that, they really connected very quickly, but there are some things. They would then shoot to the scene of her talking to the guy that she picked on the very first episode. And she said that she likes him a lot. They, bonded over crawfish and he's opening up to her. And she really wants to know more about more of his personality and see if he's really here for her and not here to just date anybody. We'll flash back to the bike rider. And she says that even though she likes him, she just feels like he's not truly zoned in on her. Like I said, she really still not feeling that whole yellow dress, tan dress situation. So I think she still got stuck on the whole, he might have mixed her up with ZADIA in terms of the outfits they had on, and she just never really let it go. She said that she feels like he just can make a connection with anyone, and she wants somebody that's truly zoned into her. So she tells him that, although she likes him, it's going to be Def Poetry Jam. She tells him he can go. She goes back and hugs her man over by the steps, and we move on to the next. Now, we would move on directly to the next person, being ZADIA, but Sharice had decided that she is going to play Columbo because you're not going to lie on her name, honey. Sharice said, don't play on my top. I know what you did, and you lied in front of Tamika. So Sharice decides to sidle up to Cameron, who was ZADIA's date, to have just like a little light conversation, really trying to find out if he was in fact the person that dropped her off, and if ZADIA did in fact go out with him. So she starts just talking to him regular, saying how he's liking the process and where he's from. And they start having a good time. He compliments Sharice on her dress and tells her she looks good in her dress. She's, says thank you and, asks where it's from, and just having a little nice little conversation. And then she says, I'm kind of mad at you because I feel like you woke me up the other morning. And she basically starts, implying that, hey, when y'all were trying to get in the house, it woke me up. Now, Cameron doesn't know about the whole incident that happened between her and ZADIA. So he's just being honest because he's just saying like, okay, he's like, yeah, I wasn't trying to make any noise. When I pulled up, I didn't know what was going on. Basically confirming what Sharice wanted ZADIA to confirm, that yes, you were with that man. You were with that man until the wee hours of the morning. He was like, she called me and, we ended up going out or whatever. And we hung out, I just talked with her the whole night and then I dropped her off in the morning. Now, mind you, Sharice never said that they slept together. She just said, your ass wasn't sleeping in this house that night. And so, she confirms it. ZADIA is walking towards that way, sees them talking. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like the fact that Cameron is talking to Sharice. And she ends up pretending to try to go over somewhere else where Ashley and the poetry guy sit. And then she comes back and she goes, can I talk to you in the house real quick? And it was weird because, he gets up to walk with her and he touches her neck and she says, don't touch my neck. It's just like, oh, ooh, it's a little messy. So ZADIA decides that she needs to nip this in the bud right away, and it's possible that he will be going home just because he spoke to Sharice. So once ZADIA heads back into the house with Cameron in tow, she basically tells him that she's interested in him. However, she doesn't like that he doesn't like to talk about his past relationships, and that's sort of a red flag for her. And he says that he doesn't necessarily feel like he needs to talk about past relationships. Past relationships are in the past, and he feels like the lessons that he needs to know and that he learned. He doesn't like to dredge up old stuff, and she feels like, no, you learn a lot about a person from their past, and it's important to know. And I absolutely agree with her. I don't even understand people who do that whole, I don't like talking about my past. I understand not delving into every, thing that was harmful or painful, but it's important that people have some type of understanding of your relationship lineage. It's important that you have some markings, some type of history, and that it's important that the new person coming into your life knows a little bit about what that history is. Male or female, what has been your relationship and your evolution with women? Have you remained the same? Have you constantly been a cheater? Have you been a philanderer? Have you been, same thing, have you been a person who's always been cheated on? Have you been a person that's always been dishonest in relationships? Have you constantly ghosted women? Have you constantly whatever? So it's just so ridiculous to think that somebody shouldn't know anything about your past issues with women. Yes, your lessons are yours, but it's also important that I understand some of the footprints along the way to me. So she says she thinks it's necessary for a relationship. He said he strongly disagrees with that. And, they sort of move on. Again, they're doing this back and forth situation with each man. So then we see her talking to Jabari. And Jabari, of course, is the guy that went out with both ZADIA and Vernisha. And in the last episode, ZADIA basically said at the end that she just sees her and Jabari being friends. So she basically connects with that. Connects with Jabari and basically says, "Hey, look, I like you. You're a real cool dude. We have a great conversation." And he says, "Yeah, definitely, definitely." And she's like, "Yeah, but I only really see us as friends because I see how into Venetia you are." And and they went to the green screen, and Jabari's like, "Yeah, I never hid that." He's like, "Pretty much, you know what I'm saying? I agree with you. Like, I never really hid that. I'm definitely more into Venetia than her, but Zadia is cool." So he's like, "Yeah. Like, I have no problem with that. That I'm not the person for you. I completely understand. Like, go towards your path, and I'm gonna head towards mine, which is to V." And he's like, "But we should still be cool. We good, right?" And she says, "Yes, we're good. We're cool. We can still be friends. Just, you're not the person." He says, "No problem." And then they're done. She goes back over to Cameron and she basically says, "I think that there's still a future with us, but I need to know more." He says, "I understand, even though I'm not a past person, I am open to you learning more about me if it's a way for us to get over this." Last up is Sharice and the mayor, honey, and Dougie Fresh. And she's moving off of Dougie Fresh because she don't like them best. And he has, I think 4 kids, and the youngest child is 4 years old. And Sharice is just like, "Look, I can't do the best and the young child. One of them can't be." So she's basically just saying it's a no for them. The energy just wasn't there. She's feeling the mayor more, even though they had a dead conversation, and this is probably going nowhere either. His kids are older, even though Sharice still has a problem with the kids, and it's mainly because he's wearing a jacket. So Sharice tells the vest to go home, and she's sticking with the mayor, and he says that he is not shocked because he is who he is. And I told y'all he was Eric Adams. Oh, wait, y'all, that's not our final elimination. Venetia is going to X out Basketball Jones. So, she basically pulls him to the side and Jabari. She says that she likes him a lot. And she loves that he loves to travel. That's something she's absolutely into. But she does feel like he just hasn't been in enough serious relationships. And I was, fully understood why she decided it was a no-go for her with him. However, I do want to say that this is something that, Venetia didn't do anything wrong in this situation, but I do often feel bad for men, similar to women, when you really have grown from your past, because we don't know that he hasn't. It does suck how long you kind of have to wait for people to see you as a different person because, of whatever may be mistakes you made or just decisions that you decided to not make. And, you're trying to transition and move forward as an improved or a more mature person. And people can still kind of hold against you the fact that they feel like you're not, where they thought you should be in certain aspects. And specifically, if, maybe he was trying to date seriously, but then he was just like, "Look, I'm overseas. I'm moving from place to place. I don't want to break somebody's heart or have a long distance. I'm just going to, be single." And because he was doing what he was doing, he was able to do that for so many months on end. But maybe once he got back stateside and now that he's retired completely from playing, maybe he's looking for something more serious. He probably, if that was the case, should have articulated it that way instead of just kind of giving this vague answer about like just not being anything since 2010. But I always feel bad for people who that their transition was just what it was. It wasn't anything like sinister behind it, but it just doesn't connect. And I feel like sometimes people could be losing out on something else. So Venetia tells him that's her fear with him, that he just hasn't had enough time with commitments and how serious commitments would be for him. She tells Jabari that she really, really likes him and enjoys him, but there's something about the playboy side of him and something about him that feels a little bit, swarmy, a little bit, fast talker player energy that she just is not sure about. I'm telling you, it's giving Joelle 2.0 with a different job. And so, she said she just got to be careful with him, but ultimately she lets basketball player go. He walks on out the door, so he's going to call his mama. And, we're done with the date eliminations for the night. So at night with the fellas are over, but everybody has picked their person, but somebody needs to pick a fight. And I feel like Ashley was the starter offer of things. So the ladies are in the kitchen cooking. It's Ashley, it's Vernisha, and it's Sharice at this point. And they're chopping up vegetables, cooking, honey. I don't know how people do it with them really long nails. Y'all got to let me know. Somebody here probably got nails that's a little bit lengthy. I can't. With the chopping and the knife and trying to hold stuff, I couldn't do it. I have to have my nice little French, you know what I'm saying, short, round, whatever. I can do designs with everything. I can't do them long, lengthy nails, honey. I can't do it. Can't do stilettos. So they're cooking, having a good time, and ZADIA comes strolling in. And so they start having conversation about the night and things that are going on. And Sharice brings up the fact that Cameron seemed like a really cool guy. And ZADIA feels like she's bringing up Cameron to get messy. So she's like, "Yeah, he seems like a good dude. He was telling me about his career, in photography and things like that." And then Zadia says, yeah, like he really has some employees and he's telling me like when he wants to retire and all that kind of stuff. And Sharice said, yeah, he was asking me some questions about business because, Sharice has been in business for like 20 years as an entrepreneur. So he might have genuinely been asking her that. And we did see him engaging her in the corner, but we know she kind of is trying to ring with Zadia a little bit. So she's kind of like, Zadia's like, this is so annoying because she's bringing up Cameron to try to make it an annoying situation. So then Ashley changes the subject and says, well, while we're all here and having a great night and we're cooking and we're having a good time, I think it's important that we do talk about the house rules thing that Tamika brought up earlier. Now she says, I don't have any boundaries. I'm good to go. I don't have any issues. Now I will say this. I do find that kind of disturbing. Like everybody has boundaries, sis. Like I don't think that it necessarily needs to be super strict, but I do think that if you're living in a home with some people, there need to be boundaries, especially about visitors, especially male visitors. There are 4 women living in a house, and Sharice is right about that. They're complete strangers to each other for the most part. They were not on the same season. And ultimately, they're learning each other and how the person cooks and cleans and how that person is neat, especially for these couple of days or weeks. And they are only here, this I think she said was the second night, was mentioned multiple times. So there's nothing wrong with you having boundaries and saying like, hey, I wouldn't be comfortable going downstairs to just get a snack and there's some dude on the couch. So there does need to be some type of rules in place. Just saying that we're grown is not enough. You do need to set a little bit of expectation. So she says she doesn't have boundaries and rules. Vernisha does the I'm grown, we're all grown, so we should be able to figure it out kind of way. The blanket statement. And Sharice begins to say that she really likes her guy, Maurice, but she still would not bring him into the home that they share together. And so Zadia gets pissed off because she is upset that Sharice is bringing it up in that fashion because she feels like Sharice is picking at the fact that they had their squarm. Now, I have to say this. Watching it over for the second time, I feel like Sharice was just really reiterating her boundary and giving the example that with her guy, she would not bring him in the home when the women are there because it's only day 2. They don't really know these men, like, whatever. So Zadia says, look, when we talked about this earlier, when I asked you, you making it sound like I forced the situation on you. I basically said like, hey, what do y'all think about, option A to have these people come over? Everybody said that they were fine. And you said that you were not fine. And I was fine with your answer, but you're making it seem like I pushed and pulled and all of that. And I did not do that. And so Sharice is like, no, I'm not saying that that's the case. And I think that's where the mix up was. I think she was just trying to reassert her boundary, but I think that, Zadia was feeling like she was picking at her. And I think she was a little bit. So Zadia goes, the thing that I don't like is that I don't trust you. And that basically we're supposed to be a sisterhood here. And you're not acting like a sister. And I was like, I didn't know it was a sorority, but okay. And she's like, we're supposed to be acting like a sister. And basically, you're not doing that. Like I guess she was saying that she feels the need to bring that up to Tamika and try to put her on blast was wrong. And so Sharice is like, you're not supposed to be waking me out of my sleep. It got so hilarious, y'all. I mean, just Sharice did not play about her sleep. We do know that now. But I think Sharice's anger came in the fact that Zadia didn't respect the fact that, one, you lied. When you were called out about it, you lied in front of that lady. You lied in front of all of us, super comfortable. And even Ashley said that like Zadia was messed up for doing that and sort of, not respecting everybody's, situation. Also, Sharice pointed out the fact that when Zadia did call and get her on the line, because it's my feeling that maybe Zadia might have called one of the other girls first and couldn't get in touch with them, and then she called Sharice, or maybe Sharice is the early riser and she knew that and she called her. Either way, when Zadia did call to ask to be let back in the house, she didn't even thank Sharice or apologize for waking her up. She just like got in the house and that was it. And Sharice is really pissed about the fact that she didn't even give a courtesy to that. Zadia says, well, if it was a problem, why didn't you just say something? And I'm like, girl, common courtesy suggests that if you wake somebody out of their slumber, you at least say, I'm sorry I woke you, but I'm sorry I woke you, but I'm sorry I woke you, but this. That's just normal manners. And she was like, well, if you didn't have a problem with it, why didn't you say something to me? And I would have known not to do that. And it's like, girl, you do lack self-awareness, which is what Sharice ends up saying to her about the fact that you didn't think that that was an inconvenience. But even if it was, the way you went about it, not only did you not thank this lady for letting you in the house because you could have stood outside, but you also didn't apologize for waking her up. It's not a dormitory. You know what I mean? Like you could have just came back during regular business hours, or you could have said, sorry to wake you. I got to get back inside the house, girl. I was out late last night with the guy. and then like let her in. And when you let her in, just say thank you. So Zadia and her kind of get into it. Zadia tries to stare her down. Sharice is like, I ain't even here to fight, but I will fight, but I'm not gonna get into a physical fight. Girl, we didn't know where this conversation was going. It was going nowhere. And Vernisha points out something that's really important, that all this energy expended in trying to fight each other, y'all could have been using to try to find a man. So we go into extra innings. It looks like Zadia and Sharice are not going to be getting along. We're not surprised. They were the two problems on their season. Why not be the problem on the new show? So we see next episode is going to be about the women all dating the same men. I want to see how that goes. But so far, episode number 2, it was okay. There was a little spice at the end, but this is a little bit of a slow roll. But I do love how we're really focused on finding the romance and not too many of the skirmishes. I will see y'all in the next one. Thank you for joining me for the episode. Bye.
As always, y'all, let me know what you thought about the episode down in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you next time.